values in this particular situation. We have that theta is in quadrant 4, and we know that sine of theta equals -1/4. So being in quadrant 4 means we're moving to the right and to the down. So it's right and down, and that's what our angle will look like because it's hanging out in quadrant 4. So it's right and down. Its sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that indicates that we have an opposite side over here of -1 and a hypotenuse of 4. The hypotenuse will always be positive. Remember, since it's moving down, it's okay that the y is or that the opposite here is a -1. It means it's moving downward. Okay, now I need to figure out that missing side, the horizontal side, so we'll use a b, label it with a b, and say that a squared plus b squared must be equal to 4 squared. So 1 plus b squared is equal to 16, and therefore b squared must be equal to 15. So the b over here is going to be a radical of 15. Notice it's positive because it is moving to the right, but you always have to think about which quadrant you're in to determine that. Quadrant 4 would be positive x, negative y. Okay, but now we can fill in all of the values of our trig, the trig values of that particular angle. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so that's going to be a -1/4, which is already known. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, so that's going to be a radical 15/4. And the tangent is going to be the opposite over the adjacent, so that's going to be a -1 over radical 15, barring some kind of simplifications you wish to do. The way I have this labeled right now, though, I can do the reciprocal functions by taking reciprocals. So the reciprocal of -1/4 is 4 over -1, also known as just -4. The reciprocal for the secant would be 4 over radical 15. And the reciprocal for the last one would be a radical 15 over a -1, or just a negative rad 15. Okay, so why don't you pause the video and see if you can do the second one on your own that's very similar. Suppose that theta is in quadrant 3 and that the tangent is 3/4. See if you can find all 6 trig values for that theta. So assuming you paused it and gave it a shot here, we are in quadrant 3, which means that we need to go left and down. We have to go left and down, so our angle looks like that. The tangent is the opposite over the adjacent, so we're going to be getting an opposite side and an adjacent side to that angle, and they're both going to be negative because we are going left and we are going down. That's okay for tangent, right? Because tangent would then be negative divided by negative, which is still positive. Now, what's the third side? What's the hypotenuse here? Well, -3 squared plus -4 squared leaves us with a 9 and a 16 for 25. So this hypotenuse side is going to be square root of 25, which is known as 5. So we have a -3, -4, 5 type triangle. So what are our trig values then? Sine is -3/5. So we're going to come back here, -3/5. Cosine is -4/5, adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is -3/4, which would be 3/4 because the negatives cancel out. Notice this is consistent with what we knew, what we already had. And then for the reciprocal functions, we just take the reciprocals of the original. So we're going to have 5 over -3, 5 over -4, and finally 4 over 3. And those are all 6 trig values.